What's up, opportunity cost investors? In this video, I'm going to show you as many ways to pay off debt as possible, including why you shouldn't if you want a higher net worth. And who better to talk to about paying off debt than my guest star today, Andrew Shear. For those who don't know Andrew, he runs a personal finance YouTube channel called Practical Personal Finance. And on one of his latest videos, he talked about his debt paying journey. You know, nothing big, just $183,000 that he paid off by the age of 30. Andrew's channel is going to be linked in the description below. But now let's get into it. Andrew, can you tell us about your debt-paying journey? Wait, the YouTube magical transition didn't work. Let me try that again. So Andrew, could you just tell us about your debt-paying journey? Oh man, no transition? Oh, hold on, I got something. You gotta go to the YouTube secrets book that they give us whenever you start a YouTube channel. Here we go. Chapter 4 says, how to break the fourth wall. I'm going to have to start this transition manually. Here, let me just...
Thank you so much for having me on. My debt journey was both one of the most difficult things I've ever done and attempted, and also one of the most amazing things that I've ever done or attempted. Difficult in the fact that there was a lot of difficult decisions that I had to make, whether, when it came to how I'm going to progress my business, what I'm going to spend my money on, if I was going to get a new car or if I was going to put money towards debt. Those were all difficult decisions to make on a consistent basis. But it was one of the most amazing things I've ever done, because being debt-free is just so liberating in itself. To know that I no longer have any payments, it gives me so much more flexibility to be able to do things that I want and not necessarily worry so much about the income all the time.
Thanks for sharing that, Andrew. And again, congrats on your success. In this video, we're going to break down 8 different ways you can pay off your debt, including my favorite one, which no one is talking about, but definitely should. Now, Andrew, through his process, actually used 2 different methods. So I'm going to let him tell you what those 2 are.
In my journey to become debt-free, I did utilize both of these methods. The debt snowball method has really been made popular by Dave Ramsey, and that's where you put all your debts in order from smallest to largest, regardless of the interest rate, and you pay them off in that order, regardless of what the interest rate is. If you were doing the debt snowball method, you could have a $35,000 debt with a 20% interest rate and a $3,000 debt with a 5% interest rate. Even though that $35,000 debt is going to accumulate so much more interest every month, you're still going to pay that $3,000 debt first, because that's the debt snowball method. That's what that method tells you to do. The debt avalanche method, on the other hand, tells you to put your debts in order based on the interest rate, because that's the money that's going to cost you the most money every month in interest. So if you were doing the debt avalanche method, you would pay that $35,000 debt off first before the smaller $3,000 debt. And the reason that I used both of them is because towards the beginning of my debt-free journey, I had a lot of different debts. Now, I had probably 7 or 8 different accounts that I was paying every month. Several of them were pretty small, and a few of them were really big. So even though the smaller ones had a lower interest rate, the psychological effect of me paying those off and having less payments was a great effect, because I was able to see my monthly total debt payments go down in a quick way. Versus if I started with those bigger debts with the larger interest rates, it would have taken a lot longer before I saw any real progress in terms of my monthly minimum payments going down. I started by using the debt snowball method, and later, once I had paid off several of my debts and I only had 3 large debts remaining, I switched over to the debt avalanche method, because that's the mathematical best and fastest way to pay off your debt. And I had already experienced those positive psychological effects that you get from using the debt snowball method.
Knowing which method you want to do is one thing, but transitioning from one method to another is an entirely different concept, and is what I call the psychology of opportunity cost. It's a hard transition to go from one to the other, especially if you get comfortable doing one. However, we have to continually monitor all the different scenarios we have and continually adapt to the one with our best interest. So, Andrew, how did you find out about the different methods?
what I like to do is I really like to look into things. I have a hard time taking things at face value that someone tells me. If someone tells me, hey, use the debt snowball method, this is the best way to pay off debt, I'm going to look up what the debt snowball method is, and I'm going to look up what the alternatives are to the debt snowball method, because I want to see all those different methods and compare them for myself and formulate my own opinion. And that's really what I like to do. So when I first heard about the debt snowball method, I probably took some time to look it up online, figure out what it was. And I believe I probably took some time to say, what are the alternatives to the debt snowball method? One of them I came across was the debt avalanche method. There was another method that I came across. It might have been suggested by Suze Orman or another financial guru, and where they suggest that you pay an equal amount to all of your debts at the same time every month in terms of the extra payments that you're putting towards them. So I was able to look at all the different methods that were out there and that existed and pick out the one that was going to work best for me. And in my case, it was a hybrid approach. And I think that's going to be the case with a lot of people, is some kind of combined approach, because a lot of times, just going, all in one direction 100% is not always the best way to do things. Sometimes you gotta zig and then you gotta zag in order to get to your destination.
I, for one, can definitely relate to not knowing what you want to do in the beginning and seeking out alternatives and researching which one's going to work best for you. So for the rest of this video, we're going to dive into 6 other methods that you can look into to see if it works best for you, and ones that you can continually monitor to see if it ever fits your best interest. So, Andrew, we're going to sign you off now, but it's been a sheer pleasure having you on. Is there anything you want to say to the audience before you go?
Thank you so much for having me on your channel today. If you want to find out more about me, my debt-free journey, on my YouTube channel, Practical Personal Finance, check it out. I come out with, until the end of this year, my goal is to come out with 3 new videos per week, and then we're going to see where we go from there. But at least 1 video per week, well into the future. That's my plan. And 3 a week until the end of December.
If you found having Andrew on the show was helpful, make sure you like that smash button and go check out his channel and buy stock in that subscriber count if you haven't already. We're going to move right into these 6 methods. However, I'm just going to do a high level. If you want me to do an in-depth look and do some math, then comment down below. Also, if we miss any methods, make sure you comment those down below so our audience members can stay in the loop with all the alternatives. But wait a minute. 6 methods, high-level approach. Seems like the perfect time to go into the lightning round. Cue lightning! The first alternative, and my favorite, is the absolute value method. And it's one that I talked about in a previous video and in my book, Opportunity Cost Investing, which is linked in the description below. What this method suggests is that you look at your portfolio holistically, not just debts, but also things that are making you money. You line all the rates of return up in order, not whether it's making you money or losing you money, but just based on the percentage. So if you had credit card debt at 28% interest, and you can invest at 7% interest, and you can also pay off student loans at 4% interest, that's the way you should work. And this way will make your net worth higher faster than any other method. However, there is a disadvantage to this method, and that is it's the most psychologically taxing method. And that's because while you're building a net worth higher and faster, you're not seeing your debt go down as much as some other people who are paying their debt down aggressively. So sometimes it's really hard to see the progress. Now we're going to move on to other alternatives where we're sacrificing the mathematical benefit while gaining the psychological benefit. And keep in mind, I'm a huge proponent of that psychological benefit because, say for instance, you're doing the absolute value method and it's not rewarding enough. It might not be in your best interest if by doing one of these other methods, like the snowball method, where you get this sense of accomplishment and it makes you want to do more and you start working harder. So there's this huge component of the psychology of opportunity cost that we kind of have to keep in mind. The next method is the equal parts method. Plain and simple, all you would do is if you had 4 debts and $400, you would put $100 in each debt. Easy to understand. Helps with the psychology, not really good mathematically. The next method I heard about from another YouTuber called Reda Harras. And in his method, he described the logical method, where you pay off the debt that's going to free up as much cash flow. So if you had a debt that you paid $150 to a month, and another debt you had that you paid $50 a month to, well, if you paid off the $150 one, now you have $150 freed up that you can start putting elsewhere. It's good psychologically, not good mathematically. This next method, let's pretend you borrowed money from your sister. And your sister was really nice, and she let you borrow it at 0% interest, and she said, pay me back just as soon as you can, please, I need the money. Well, after some time where we couldn't pay her back, or maybe we were using a different method where we focused on higher interest, the tension between the relationship started to build. Well, there's that emotional baggage behind that debt. So the debt volcano and the debt tsunami suggest that you pay off the debts with the highest emotional backbone behind it. So by paying off your sister first, you can keep that relationship going strong. And that's what this one suggests. And it's one that I learned about from a YouTuber named Christian Pinckard. So make sure to check out his channel too. The second to last method I have is more of a tactic, and it's called the debt snowflake. And what the debt snowflake suggests is that anytime you make additional money, so maybe your tax refund or a bonus at work, you take that money and move it into debt. That's all it is. And that brings us to our eighth and final method, and that is the hybrid method, which is a combination of any of the methods at any time, and is usually what we end up doing. In fact, that's how I paid for my student debt. I used the absolute value method throughout college, and then once I graduated my MBA, I just wiped the student debt. And it was because even though I knew that mathematically the absolute value method was more rewarding, psychologically, it meant more to me not to have the hassle of having debt. So I did it that way. But that's all I have for you in this video. If you enjoyed the content and you found it helpful, make sure you like that smash button by stalking our subscriber count and Liberty Bell that notification icon. Until next time, thanks for watching.